Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hearthcenter. It is another week, and that means another fantastic show for you guys. We have some really cool guests lined up for you today. We're going to start with our first one. You may have heard about him if you follow the Hearthstone competitive scene. And hey, if you're watching this show, that probably means you have. So for our first guest, let me welcome Blackout. Hello, Blackout. How are you doing today, man?
Fine. A bit tired, but yeah. Standard.
A bit tired. Do you mind telling the audience why you might be tired or what is going on in your life right now?
I just had exams at college, and then I come home and played the E versus China tournament and lost to Druid. So
Lost to Druid.
Same old.
Yeah, I was gonna say this isn't the first time in the last couple of weeks that Druid has got you down, right?
Yeah. I like the two losses at Assembly I had were both to Druid, so maybe it's just my weak point, but
yeah. Now, Assembly, we have we have lots to get into, but that's actually one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about. How was your overall experience with that tournament?
I mean, Helsinki's a really great city at first, so obviously like going there is nice. Meeting people is always nice, like same old faces, like guys like Nimsh and E-Carp I've known for ages, and the tournament in itself, the player lounge and stuff, the area was really cool. Like the new guys we met, the admins were really helpful. There was a couple of issues, like I think during one game the entire internet went off when we were all playing, so we all had to replay. Yeah, that's where the number guy incident on Reddit came from. But apart from that, it ran pretty smoothly. Like my only issues with it being like a 1 day tournament, and because our flights got cancelled on the Thursday, we basically had like a 48-hour day on the Thursday to the Friday where me and Green Sheet slept like 2 hours and had to get our flight at 7 a.m. in the morning to come, and then we played all day, and then I think we finished at like 3 a.m. or something. So
yeah, I heard that you guys had some problems getting out, and you said it would take a miracle for you guys to actually make it, but you ended up doing it. I mean, who helped you out with that? Was it just like team support or what?
yeah, I mean, we were on the phone to Odie, who's like the owner of Dignitas, for like most of the day, like sorting new flights and stuff out. We had to get like a taxi, then a train, then the London Underground, then and then we had to stay over for like a couple of hours in a hotel. Then we flew at like we had to leave the hotel like 5 a.m. to go and check in for our flights, and I think we got there around 12 like midday. Because of the time difference, and then basically our hotel was full, so people hadn't checked out, so I couldn't even go for a shower or anything. So like we had to basically just go straight to the venue and play. Yeah.
And this number guy incident you mentioned on Reddit. What's that all about?
I mean, basically, during the games, the internet went off, so number guy skipped one of his turns while he was still in the game, and he was pretty mad. I mean, he was winning, so then the admins made like a blanket ruling to just completely replay all the games. So number guy was pretty annoyed, which I mean was reasonable. If I was in his spot, I would have been annoyed as well, because he was like really far ahead in the game, like almost to an extent where it was unlosable, I would say. I think he skipped a turn, but managed to reconnect and came back in and won anyway.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's how far he was ahead. And I think like the deck he was playing could like 3-0, and I think he did 3-0 with it. So it's just a case of whether the admins have to like. It's hard from an admin point of view because you have to make a specialist ruling, in which case it's biased towards a certain party, or a blanket ruling which disadvantages some people. So yeah, you're never gonna win in that case
Yeah.
as the admin.
Yeah, there's been obviously some controversy going on around lately about online Hearthstone tournaments and, obviously, the cheating thing coming up and a lot of the DDoS. I mean, shoot, I feel like for the past couple shows, a big point has always been, oh yeah, this tournament was good, but there was this huge host of
Yeah.
problems. I mean, what what do you see the future of Hearthstone tournaments looking like? Do you think do you think there's like solutions to these problems?
Yeah, I mean, I think if if games like CS:GO can get over it, then I think we can as well. Like DDoSing is getting a big thing in esports because of betting, and
Mm-hmm.
thankfully in Hearthstone it isn't that big yet. Otherwise, we'd see like every tournament would be DDoSed if there was betting. If there was like some form of like lounge or
Yeah,
something for this game, like it'd be so much worse than it already is. And
yeah,
I think a lot of it as well is the game being in its infancy as an esport. Like players aren't really people aren't as aware of stuff like DDoS as they
mm-hmm.
are in other games. So like I come from a Dota background
Yeah,
before Hearthstone, so like I am it's pretty like DDoS is like a pretty prominent thing in Dota games where
yeah,
you would see people DDoS if they're losing skins or
mm-hmm.
rares, and CS it's the same. Well, like people that come from a Magic the Gathering background and like Yu-Gi-Oh and like actual card TCGs aren't aware. Like you just log on your laptop and play some Hearthstone and
Yeah, yeah.
aren't really conscious of the amount going on the game and the amount of people watching it and
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's not like there's not protections that tournament organizers can require, and it's not like there's not protections that Hearthstone players themselves can require. I know that Destiny's Guide, um, the StarCraft 2 player. I mean, if there is probably not a better written practical guide to like protect yourself from DDoS, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think the easiest way to run it, you can like log on to like any forum. There's guides to making yourself untraceable on the internet. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can put yourself behind 3 VPNs without actually having to think about it for yourself and never be DDoSed. But I think a lot of people are realizing now that DDoS is a major thing. It's one of those things where you think, oh, it's never going to happen to me until it does happen to
Oh
you.
yeah.
Like, and then you gotta wake up and smell the coffee a bit. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is a real thing. There's a lot of money going on these games
What?
on
Yeah.
like betting websites and betting, even stuff like underground Bitcoin stuff is probably.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too into that, but it's probably prominent. It is in other games.
Yeah.
So
Well, hey,
you just
thankfully, no one is betting on Hearthcenter. There's there's nothing for players to be gained, so no one's going to DDoS
yeah.
us. Hopefully.
I mean, sometimes even if there is nothing to gain, you get DDoS. Like on
Yeah.
me and Chucky were playing tabletop, and we got DDoS, and that's just like a for fun thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh well. It's funny from talking to you. You sound like a pretty calm, pretty like reasonable guy. Got your head on your shoulders. But what is this most tilted player award? Do you really go on tilt that easily?
yeah, basically there's this thing where in about the past 3 tournaments I played, I just get like 3-0'd by Druid, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just I have really I get pretty bad tempered at the game because if you come from a background where you're used to being in control of everything in the game. There's no
Yes.
variables out of your
Yeah.
control. And like then you just lose to something that you lose in like an important tournament and there's just nothing you could have done. It's like it's hard to get to grips with at first. I think I
Yeah.
still am like adjusting to it, but yeah.
Yeah. I also come from a Dota background, so I can appreciate that comparison because when you
Yeah.
lose in Dota, like why you lost. This is why I lost. This is what happened. But in Hearthstone, the correct play can often be the play that loses you the game.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
it's just
so what do
something
you,
you've got to learn to
hmm
deal with.
So what do you think about Druid then? Because I mean, Druid on double combo, it's a very powerful, low risk. You don't really have to commit to putting it in your deck. I mean, do you think it's nerf worthy? Or do you think it's just something that is always going to be there and it's part of the meta?
No, I think Druid combo. I think Blizzard are so the nerfs are so centric around making the game fun for like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the. So like if this card, it's not if this is too good. It's if this card isn't fun to play against. So like
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker wasn't fun because it put you in situations where it's just ridiculous. You can lose the game no matter what you do, and
Mm-hmm.
like there's been cards like I mean Doctor Boom is the most obvious example right now where they're
Yeah.
just literally in every single deck no matter what.
Yeah.
Like I think the assembly deck lists like every player had Doctor Boom in 3 of their 4 decks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean personally I don't think Doctor Boom is nerf worthy. I think it's just good in the format right now. But I think Druid combo is a bit too strong. There's a reason that Druid has been as soon as you take aggro out of the metagame, Druid becomes by far and away the strongest deck in the game because it just
Really?
it destroys control. Yeah, I think 15 out of 16 people at Assembly had Druid, and the one that didn't went 0-6.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's just I think Savage Rush should probably be 4 mana is
Yeah.
what I think because there's a lot of comparisons you can draw between that and Bloodlust. Like, why is Savage Draw 3, Bloodlust 5, to start? And then Savage Draw gives you face +2. So,
Mm-hmm.
and if Savage Draw's 4, it doesn't allow you for the 22 damage combo as well, which it doesn't happen that often, but when it does, there's almost no way you can lose the game with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's very interesting how you said that when aggro's gone, Druid becomes so powerful because a lot of players, they're rejoicing the nerf of Undertaker and they're like rejoicing, oh yeah, it's like aggro's gotten just that much weaker, and like now what, maybe you have mech mage, and that's probably about it. But there's a new beast that
Yeah.
like shines its head. So who's to say that taunt druid with a bunch of combo is going to become the next most hated thing?
Yeah, I mean, Druid has always been my most hated class in the game just because I don't. It's just like you just play stuff and take them to 14 at turn 9 and kill them, and that's the game. It's like
Yeah,
the eyes of a druid, the world of a druid player is hitting them in the face until they're at 14 life, and then pressing 2 cards and winning the game. Like,
yeah, and there's so many swingy things about all of the most powerful druid decks in the past. I mean, even if you look at token druid, that deck was so good is because when it didn't get its draws, it was just a pretty good deck. But when it did get its draws, there was nothing
yeah,
you could do.
yeah, I remember playing the game against Adu like way back in the day. And it's like he goes like turn 1, innovate coin teacher, innovate power of the wild, and it's like "Hey, you got me.
Yeah,
Just may as well just concede now. Like the game's over.
that's pretty
Like
much. I think that's pretty much the most like degenerate thing you could do
yeah,
on turn 2. Yeah,
it's
but actually, I guess that brings me to my next um question, or I guess topic, about the whole mentality of Blizzard nerfs, and the whole mentality, I guess, of this game's future. You mentioned how Doctor Boom is such a powerful card, and the thing is, a- I feel a little bit like differently on it. I think he's just the most powerful card in the game by far, and I don't think it has to do with the meta. I feel as if no matter what the game shifts, he's always going to be good. And to me, that's scary to me because now, in order for any other legendary to be worthy, he needs to be better than Doctor Boom,
yeah,
or at least as good as Doctor Boom. And that's
yeah,
and that's very hard to do because now you start getting cards that, I mean, I can't think of a card for 7 mana that would be more powerful than Doctor Boom and not be complete like broken. So what do you think, I guess, what are your thoughts on like the future of the game and the viability of this style that Blizzard nerfs things when they're not fun?
I mean, I think the Blizzard's mentality seems a lot very like anti-aggro. Like they keep trying to drive aggro out of the game, and we've already seen it. Decks like Freeze Mage and Miracle get nerfed too, because I think Blizzard wants to take the game into this realm of just like the dream of just monsters battling. You know, there's no Miracle Rogue where you draw 10 cards a turn, or Freeze Mage where you can just play on your own basically.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Those decks were always my favorite decks because it felt like every decision, like they were the highest skill cap because every decision you made had an impact on whether you won the game or not.
Oh, yeah.
Like those decks you could always look back at and think, if I did this differently, I think I would have won. Or if I did this differently, I think I would have, I might have had a better chance at winning than I did. And like, if the game keeps evolving in the way it does, and Blizzard keep bringing in really good cards, and then nerfing it so that aggro is eventually the metagame is going to become so like it's just going to be druid and like mid-range decks and control, and that's going to be you're either going to play because aggro just isn't going to be worth bringing. Like the reason mech mage is so popular right now is just because it's the quickest format in the deck, and it punished a lot of people who saw the Undertaker nerf and were like, right, we can take our zombie chows, we can take our whatever, we don't need to play anti-aggro anymore, we can play double big game hunter and whatever. And like, as soon as the game was kind of the same, if you remember back to when GVG launched, everyone went full greed. And then the people that were winning were the people playing aggro decks. So like Taki won I think the first two winners of the ESL Legendary Series after GVG. Chucky played like Druid, Zoo, and Hunter. I think Max was the other one. Max played like Zoo, Hunter, and Priest. So like, I think aggro is only good right now because people are still figuring out the meta. And as soon as people figure out the meta and realize that, like it's sort of the way Firebat did it. He just figured out the meta and realized that everyone was playing too greedily, and he just brought Zoo and punished it. That's kind of what people are gonna do.
And if the future is mid-rangey, then it's gonna be tough for the casual players, which is something that, obviously this is like an esports podcast. Obviously, a lot of our listeners are like esports oriented people, but a very interesting statistic that one of our past guests talked about was the win rates of Miracle Rogue just on the ladder. And this was a guy from Hearthstats.net, so this was a really stats based guy. And at its prime, and when like Miracle Rogue was at its best, it actually had one of the worst like win percentages during like the rank 19 to like rank 8, because it was all of these players that were playing with the decks and they didn't have the skill to actually like pilot it, so they just lost. And I think something like that really does, like, that's probably why the deck was nerfed so much, is because it wasn't fun to lose by it, because they didn't know why they were losing, and then when they tried to play it, they didn't know how to win with it.
Yeah, it's the Blizzard policy of something's uninteractive or not fun to play against it, they'll nerf it. Like Unleash was because it wasn't fun. The original back in the day like OTK Unleash was because people were like, I'm playing 8-9 drops and I'm losing to this on turn 8 because I have no board. Like, Blizz, please nerf, and they did it. And I don't think it was OP, because what you did to play that, you just put double Taz Dingo in your deck back then, and it was like, right, we're fine. I don't think Unleash was an issue back then. The freeze nerfs, I think were maybe warranted, but could have what I would have liked to see Blizzard do is revert some of the nerfs as the expansion. So I think some of the freeze nerfs could have been like reverse back in when you put cards like Loatheb into the game
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I think that like the Shattered Sun Cleric nerf and
Mm-hmm.
like the Blood Imp was just bonkers. That card was, in my opinion, the most overpowered card this game. As Zoo would
Yeah.
just be by far and away the best deck in the game if
If
Blood
it
Imp
was the
was
old
still
Blood
here.
Imp, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like stuff like Shattered Sun Cleric though, and like Argent Commander, those nerfs they could easily be reverted and wouldn't have an impact. I don't think Cleric could be a really good 3-drop again, but you would have to be cutting like the 3-drops that you're running like now, like Shade in some decks and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And you just wouldn't cut them a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like, but
Yeah, and as the cards printed get more and more powerful, and the old cards get nerfed, even from the most casual perspective, it just gets more expensive to play the game. It just gets harder to actually make a deck you want.
yeah, I mean, right now, like, yeah, that's another thing with aggro being nerfed is that it's like aggro was like the entry point for a lot of new players like
Mm-hmm.
Zoo, and I mean you can still play Zoo, but you can't really. I wouldn't say it's viable to. You can probably get Legend with it. I mean, I'm one of these people that believes you can get Legend with whatever as long as it's like not awful.
Yeah.
Like if you put enough time in, you can probably get Legend with it.
So would you
But
say
like
that you're more of a deck like tweaker? Like, like do you tweak the decks and like change them to make them viable, or are you more of the person that makes their own deck and tries to really do something new?
I mean, since I like before GVG, I was one of these people that you would look at a deck and like, sometimes I would come up with stuff with other people. If I was with other people, I'd be one of those people sat there like having input and like 3 or 4 of the cards would be my idea.
Mm-hmm.
So like when me and Jackie like sat together and on Skype and like made the Face Hunter list that was but like the most recent one, like
Mm-hmm.
pre GBG, that Face Hunter list, we like sat together and like there's stuff like tracking and stuff. It was like me, Chucky, and Amrable just sat there on Skype for a day, played like 50 games of ladder with it, saw what was
Yeah.
best. Like it was like a joint thing, but since GBG, I've like been trying to work out a lot more, and like especially since the Undertaker nerf, what is good on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Shaman deck I brought to Assembly, it was an old the theory behind it was old, but like most of the cards were, stuff I'd put in myself, and like
Mm-hmm.
I mean there's some other stuff, just like Hunter decks with like 1 or 2 card difference,
Yeah.
and
What are some
there's
of
there's a
what are some of the players that you think are at the peak of the game right now? Like, what do you think are some of the players that like inspire you? Like, or
uh,
the ones that you want to beat.
well, I mean, for me, like the best players in the world right now are like Sixo, Firebat, Strife Crow. I want to say RDU because RDU is still the same player he was when he was winning everything. He
Mm-hmm.
just like either like his preparation has been a little bit off, or his like he's just gotten a bit unlucky because he's still you practice. I
Mm-hmm.
practice with him and. You still sees the say like he still doesn't misplay really at all. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
still just the same solid player. He comes up with decks that are, like actually work in the meta
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But I mean, for me, probably the top 3 in the world are like Firebat, Strife Crow, and Sixer right now.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think there's a pretty clear like level between those. I think those guys are pretty far ahead of the pack when it comes to everyone else.
Yeah, 6-0 is definitely on another level. We had him on the show once, and he was just talking about the ease in which he obtained legend on all three of the regions like simultaneously. And I was like, I don't think you realize how hard that is to do, but you made it look easy. So, all right, 6-0, just keep
Yeah.
playing Hearthstone and do your thing. It was kind of impressive. Um, Moving on then. Let's talk about you. Your esports career. Now, you mentioned earlier that you started in Dota 2, or you came from a Dota 2 background. Was the switch to Hearthstone something that you like expected? Were you always into card games?
I mean, I played a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, but like
Mm-hmm.
maybe when I was like 10, 11 years old, nothing big. And then I was playing like I've always played like FPSs, or Dota was the one for me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd played Warcraft 3 as a kid. I played Dota 1 as a kid, like World of Warcraft
Oh
and
man.
stuff like that was that was it really. I
I
just played
mean,
a lot of World of
Warcraft
Warcraft
3,
and a lot of
that
Dota.
was the that was the best game, man. Like Warcraft 3,
Yeah.
I still wish that game was viable. Like, I wish people played it. What was your race? What race did you play?
I only played the Dota mod.
Oh, really?
I barely played. I didn't play much Warcraft. Like if I played just War 3, I'd just like play some like really cheesy Night Elf build.
Mm-hmm.
But like I only
The
really played the Dota mod, or like stuff like Warlocks and stuff like
or
that.
like Footman Frenzy. Please tell me that you played
Yeah,
some.
yeah,
All right,
yeah. I
dude.
played for
Dude,
Frenzy.
Footman Frenzy. That was the man. Those games were so good. And you know, it's so crazy. I don't understand why, like Dota, that created this whole like genre. But I'm saying like, why didn't someone make a Footman Frenzy game? Like, like
Yeah,
make a Footman Frenzy like AAA game. I'd play it. You know.
yeah. Warlocks was always the one for me, where I would like
Mm.
I could sit there and play Warlocks all day. That game was so fun, just with friends. Like
That was the one in
yeah.
which you. That was the one which you crafted the like spells, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was like an arena, and you like,
Yes, dude, that game was fun. I loved it. Oh my God! Can I remember the combination for Chain Heal? Because that was one of the best spells. You always had to have
yeah.
someone with chain. I think it was like water.
The
I don't
Meteor
know.
was really OP as well.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
remember the being OP.
and
Uh,
yeah, it'd be builds. You would get Unferal Spirits and like water elementals, and you would try to do that whole summoner thing.
yeah.
Yeah, man, that game was sweet. So, anyways, your transition to Hearthstone. We got a little sidetracked.
Yeah, I mean, I got given a beta key. I was playing like pretty heavy World of Warcraft. Even as like a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I was like 10 years old or something. I'd come home on a Saturday and do Nax 40. Like I was like 10 years old. I had no idea what I'm doing. I'm just
Whoa,
like raiding Nax. And
gosh.
I mean, I grew up playing a lot of video games, and like I was
Mm-hmm.
always like a very competitive, like even as a kid, just in normal sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like I played like football at like a pretty high level. I played for like a youth team of like a premiership team when
Oh,
I was a
cool,
kid.
cool.
Like I was always like this competitive person, and like I started playing Hearthstone. I got in a key, and I was like watching Trump and like
Mm-hmm.
Trump, Fripp, and the really early guys, and I started playing like these daily tournaments, and I met these tournaments used to be like I remember them. There was like five or six like pro players. Like
Mm-hmm.
Savitz used to play them.
Yeah,
I remember meetings like this was like way back, like
yeah,
November,
way back in
October
the day.
2015. Yeah, like Savitz used to play them. Like a lot of like the lower tier pros
Mm-hmm.
that were like the people that run like VVV gaming and stuff like that. And like I met like Ostkaka through there, and then yeah, and then I moved on. I was like winning a few of these. I won like some small 2P tournaments. I was playing like Mana Grind Swisses, and
Mm-hmm.
like I was doing okay. So I was like, right. So I knew people from Dota, so I was like, hey, do you wanna hit us up with like a sponsorship? And like
Mm-hmm.
because we were like some of the guys that were like winning the Mana Grinds.
Yeah.
Like back when this was even before Fight Night. This was like back in the day.
Wow. Before fight night.
Yeah, and we were like, yeah, sure. And I became teammates with like Ignite.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing with Ignite a lot way back then, and sort of progressed. Yeah, things went to where they are now. So
Cool. Cool. So, do you have any plans in the future? I mean, like, what do you see yourself doing when it comes to esports in like 2 years or so?
I mean, obviously, I want to keep playing Hearthstone. If it is still a thing, then I want to. I see myself probably playing it. Like as much as I hate this game sometimes, I do enjoy playing it. Like competing is
uh,
like the fun part, and obviously, Dignitas is like a great org and a great team to be on.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, especially being UK based, like really helps a lot. I have like a lot of good friends. Like Green Sheep and Jackie are both I'm both really good friends with.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to. I would see myself staying here. Probably I can't unless something changes drastically. Like I
Yeah.
can't see anything
Any new
changing
any
much.
new games that you play or you're looking forward to, or is it really focused on Hearthstone?
I mean, right now I just play Hearthstone and like Osu. That's
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, that's that music game, right? Isn't that like the beat game?
Yeah, like the beat map game. I play like CS sometimes with friends. I haven't
Uh,
touched Dota since like August or
oh,
something.
my old Dota friends wanted me to play Dota just the other day, and the thing is, I've been playing Heroes of the Storm, so I tried to play a game of Dota with them, and I'm like, guys, I can't. It's so slow. It's so
Yeah,
different. I'm so used to Heroes, but anyways, all right. Hey, so I guess shout outs to Dignitas, right?
yeah. I mean, shout outs to my teammates, which are like Green Sheep, Taki, Kranich.
Mm-hmm.
Shouts to our sponsors. I always get these wrong, but Corsair, Intel, Twitch, Multiplay, Creative, Western Digital, Scani, Armor, Alienware. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's it.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it really.
Well, hey man, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your look on the meta and what you think about the game.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. I'm a pretty outspoken person, so I enjoy talking about what
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. You enjoy the opportunity. Well, hey, man, get better. I can't believe that you were still like, able to do this. The poor guy's sick, but he's given his life here trying to be on the show.
Yeah,
Well, hey, man, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
yeah,
All
nice to
right.
be here.
Hey, maybe we'll have you on the show some other time. Talk to you later, buddy.
Yeah, see ya.
See ya. Bye. All right. That was he's a cool guy. Uh, I like it. I think someone like that who's been playing for that long, who's I mean before fight night was sitting there and competing in these tournaments. It's always good to see where he thinks the game's gonna go, what he thinks the problems with the game is, and from someone who is focused on esports, how do you contend with a game like Hearthstone that seems to be balanced around fun, which is great. We love fun, but also, like balance. That's a big thing as well. Anyways, thank you for watching. We're gonna take a really short break, and then we're gonna have our next guest. So yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for waiting. On to our second guest for today. You may know him from his stream. You certainly know him from Hearthstone. Without further ado, welcome to Hearthcenter, Freshca. Hello.
What's up?
Hey, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Doing good?
Testing some stuff on ladder. That's about it.
Oh, really? May we get a sneak peek of the things that you are testing?
You're gonna have to wait until Tuesday.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, well, hey, you guys heard it here first. Cool tech coming out Tuesday. We won't spoil it, but hey, man, I'm so glad you could be on the show.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Yeah.
I watched a few of these, so.
Oh no way! Really?
It's kind of cool. Yeah, it's kind of cool to be on it.
You're joking me. You've seen this stupid little show?
Yeah, who was it? I'm trying to think of who was on it last time I watched it. I think it was someone from Dignitas. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Last time it was Zale and Orange,
Yeah,
I believe.
I don't think I saw that one, but I saw one
Hey,
like
man,
a few
don't worry
weeks
about
ago.
it. Hey, man, I'm just glad. Wow, that's so cool. No one ever watches this thing, right? I'm kidding, of course.
Yeah,
But
I like watching or looking at the different articles on different websites. So.
hmm Yeah. You know, it's funny that you bring that up. That's something that I was going to ask you just next. Part of why I wanted to have you on the show is this article, I guess, like series that you're starting or just in the midst of started, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's the deck series in which you basically people send in their decks or their decks that they think are valuable, and then you get to sort through. I mean, how did you get this idea? Why is this something you want to do?
Well, Frodan approached me, and he wanted me to start an article series on Tempo Storm.
Mm-hmm.
So after like maybe an hour of brainstorming with him, we kind of came to that conclusion. So I made a Reddit post to see if there was interest, and I ended up getting like 5,000 emails or something.
Yeah. I saw that. It was just insane. And these are people that either want coaching or want this or that. I mean, how do you even sort through that?
I have like three people who help me.
So all right. So what were the most common decks? Like what was the most common filter that you could say, okay, we're not gonna undo these because everyone thinks they're clever, and
Okay, probably like Zoo decks that just had 3 new cards. So like the Void Terror Zoo.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of those.
No.
Or people like, oh, look at my new Mech Mage deck that has like Ragnaros in it. Oh, innovation at its finest.
The innovation is overwhelming. So obviously a bunch of ladder pros, took their decks. But I'm sure there was also some other really cool ones. Not that you have to spoil them here, but
yeah. I'll give you a little preview. There's a really cool Paladin deck.
Okay.
I don't think it is 100% viable, but I never thought to try it, so
yeah.
I thought it was interesting.
And that's usually how a pro deck forms, right? Something that isn't really viable, so no one thinks about it, but it has some synergy, has some strengths. Then you were the one that's going to tweak it, make it viable. All right, so when can we expect this, and where do we go to find it? Because I know there's some buzz about it.
It's going to be every Tuesday on Tempo Storm.
Every Tuesday.
So.
Nice. And hopefully you won't have to sift through 5,000 emails every Tuesday, or maybe you want to. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind.
Yeah.
The more emails, the better decks I'll find. So.
Mm-hmm. So speaking, I guess, of articles, you've also written on the topic of, I guess, how to get better, how to improve as a player. And this is something that I often bring up on the show, because if you are watching, there's a very good chance that you're not as good as Hearthstone as Freshca. That's okay. And this, obviously goes for a lot of the pros I have on the show. And, people usually have their takeaways, and obviously there's a lot of good stuff in the article, but we can't go through the whole thing now. What, I guess, are maybe, I don't know, the top 2 or maybe even the most important thing you think to just getting better?
The most important thing is just recording your stats. Like, you need to know what you're losing to know how to improve. And the other thing, I guess, would just be pay attention to streams rather than just sitting there for entertainment. You need to actually think through what you would do as they're doing it, and see if your play would match up with theirs, or if you think your play would even be better than what they did.
Can you give an example of that? Like, how would one do
so
that?
Like, I guess an example for me, right? Like, I would be playing Fatigue Mage, and say I have the ability to either Flame Strike and kill 2 or 3 minions, or I have the ability to play a minion in Frost Nova to set up for an Echo the next turn, right? And depending on what class I'm playing, it's a pretty good chance that my board will live if I Frost Nova. So I could then get an Echo of like 2 or 3 minions and maybe take a couple more points of damage because I don't clear their board right away. But then other people might be like, well, it's turn 7, I can kill 3 minions, let's just Flame Strike. Right?
Yeah.
So it's just good to think about your other plays.
Yeah. And you said something like not just watching for entertainment.
Right.
Because, obviously that's why a lot of us do like to watch the streams, but there is that way you can zone out and just kind of look at the flashy colors and oh look, and,
right, yeah,
and you know, like focus on the players' reactions, stuff like that.
Yeah, especially because like there are a lot of entertaining streamers, but
oh yeah,
if you do want to improve, you gotta like pay attention to the plays too.
Here's your chance to shout out to the streamers you watch, or do you watch streams?
There's way too many. I think like 80% of my day is either playing or watching Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Well, 80% of my free time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still in college and stuff, but
yeah. Really? What are you studying?
Advertising.
Oh man, that is a field that involves understanding the human psyche well enough to get them to buy something that they may not even want to buy, right?
Yeah, I'm taking my second psychology course right now, actually.
Oh man.
So
cool. You mentioned earlier in that example you gave me, you're talking about Fatigue Mage. Now, are you responsible for this deck? Because I know that you champion it and you like play it often. You know, were you one of the innovators with it?
I actually did make the first iteration of it that I know of, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I know Otter was playing Freeze Mage with like Cold Light Oracles, but it wasn't actually Fatigue Mage.
Yeah.
And then I actually ran into him on Ladder, and I was like, hey, why don't you try my version of the deck? And then he posted it on Reddit, and it got popular that way. Mm-hmm. But before that, I even played it in the Pinnacle 1 qualifier.
Yeah.
And it was against the Ude, and it ended up on YouTube. Kalento and Savige ended up playing it. Kalento got rank 1.
Nice.
And the only difference from his list was he put in Ice Block and Alex from my list. So,
so yeah, I think I've seen that. I've seen his stream play it, and it's interesting because as I was doing some research, getting like ready for this, I was like, oh wow, like I didn't know that he was like the guy who did it, but it makes sense now. What do you think makes the deck tick? Like, how do you best play this deck? Why is it capable of winning?
Well, okay, so first of all, you need to realize it's not a mill deck, right?
Uh-huh.
You're not going to aggressively make them draw through their deck. If you do, you're going to die. So your whole plan is, and the oracles kind of help with this in the sense that they're card draw without hindering you.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can draw cards, but you don't get to fatigue faster than they do. So you really just need to grind out through all their threats, and then at the end you can Cold Light Oracle, but don't like Cold Light Oracle, Echo the Cold Light Oracle, and think you're gonna win by milling them. That's not how it's gonna work.
Yeah, so it looks like a mill deck, but that's kind of the trap. Right. Don't start milling.
Yeah. Right.
So what are, I guess, the prime targets for Echo? Because that's really kind of the workhorse of the deck.
Mostly Belchers and Healbots. Mm-hmm. But really, you just need to set up good Echoes with your freezes. Try to get like 2 or 3 minions at a time with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad to get Cold Light Oracle, but you don't want to just Echo Cold Light on its own.
Mm-hmm. Now, just how good is Anti-Healbot? Because I'm quite proud of being one of the people to highlight this card when it was first released. I was says, guys, trust me, this is really good. Like this is really good. There's so much value here. Like 8 healing's huge. But how good do you think this really is? Like in the meta, like is it just because aggro's kind of taken a seat now with some of the Undertaker nerfs and like whatnot, or how do you feel about this card?
It's really good against Freeze Mage.
Mm-hmm.
You could, if you can kill their Alex and then Healbot, like they're not going to kill you the next turn.
Yeah.
It's good against Warrior in the same respect because they can't grow Mashi if you heal. But I think the card definitely is a little weaker if there's less aggro.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as there's aggro like Mech Mage and Hunter still there, I think the card's at least a 1 of in most decks, if not 2.
Yeah.
So
I
think it's really strong.
So you're not too worried about the Undertaker nerfs for the future of aggro?
Oh no, you don't need it at all.
Really? Because that's a really interesting point. Can you kind of elaborate on that? Because I know a lot of people are screaming, "Oh man, like Undertaker's nerfs way over nerfed." aggro's dead, that whole thing.
Sexer got rank 1 with Face Hunter without Undertaker, so and Purple Drunk's rank 1 on NA right now with an aggro deck and it doesn't have Undertaker, so I don't think it's really that big of a deal.
So it's definitely hyped. The whole
right.
Yeah.
I mean, there was definitely games where if you get an Undertaker going, you couldn't win that game against them. But even if you take that away, like Hunter still won games when he didn't draw Undertaker. So now instead of just having half your deck rely on just winning with Undertaker, you just have your whole deck rely on charge damage. So you can't play the slower deck, but you can still definitely play the aggressive one.
And I guess speaking of changing a meta, I read about a Shaman deck that's quite unique, that you played to get second in the ESL Challenger Series. Is that correct?
Yeah, the one with Alex Strauser, right?
Yeah. It was Neptulon and the Power Mace.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. So, where did you come up with that deck, or what is the what's the strategy behind that?
So the story is actually pretty funny. One of the guys from Blizzard was complaining to me about how he can't play Shaman because it loses to Hunter. So I'm like, oh, well, we could fix that problem. And I just threw in Alex and Healbots. And then I'm like, wow, this deck is actually pretty good. So I started tweaking it, and I was having a problem with Warrior still, so I put in Harrison Jones. And then I just kept playing it and tweaking 1 or 2 cards, and then I just said, fuck it, I'll play it in the weekly because it doesn't matter that much. And then I got second, so.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I tested it some more afterwards with Gara, and we ended up cutting a card for Black Knight, and he played it himself in another tournament, so.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
So you think there's definitely some potential there?
It's definitely less potential now that you're not seeing as many Hunters, because that's what it originally was intended for, to beat Hunter and Warrior. But I think the deck's still pretty good.
Do you think Shaman as a class just kind of needs some love? Because I know a lot of the pro players that I've talked to, they like Shaman. Like, they inherently like Shaman as a class. A lot of people say that it's one of the hardest classes to play correctly because of all of the different outcomes and, the overload. But it really hasn't seen much success lately. Like, what do you think it needs?
I just think it's one of the hard decks to fit into the meta, right? Like, if you change it, it might become really imbalanced. But if you saw, like, a couple months ago, people were playing Shaman, and they were just sweeping tournaments. If you've played in the right meta, then it's just busted. But if people are playing decks that are just naturally good against Shaman, then you can't play it. So I think it's just one of those classes that'll rotate in and out.
Yeah. But it kind of won't ever be that staple, like something like Hunter, right?
It's not going to be something you bring to every meta. So I don't really think they could change too much about it unless they want to, like, completely go a different direction. But maybe if you add something like Quartermaster or something so that their totems are really good all the time, then it could stay every meta, but otherwise I don't see it. Yeah,
Dunemaul Shaman really wasn't the card that Shaman needed, right?
Yeah, I had some high hopes for it a little bit, right? Yeah. If you play a really big Wind Fury guy and then you Lightning Storm their board, it's guaranteed to hit face, but it takes too much to line it up.
Yeah, you know what? I also have to admit I was on the Ogre Ninja hype for a long time because I was like, man, this card for 5 mana is like a really clumsy, stupid version of Ragnaros, kinda. But you can kind of aim it, and it has stealth, so like this has got to be good, right? But it didn't really work out, and I think it's mainly because Rogue doesn't have a use for that. I think if the card was in another class, I think it may see some play, But
I think the problem is Shade just costs less and is always guaranteed to hit what you want. So if you look at Rogues now, like you're playing Tinker Royal still with a stealth minion, but it's Shade because it just comes out earlier.
Yeah, and there's no chance of it losing you the game because it decided to hit face. So, I guess to kind of go backwards a bit, I just assume that you've always been playing Hearthstone, or that you've always been playing card games, but that is just a base assumption because of what you do now. Like,
Right.
where did you first get your start in all of this esports mess?
I played a lot of games, but I played Here's a New Earth. I was like 2,000 rating.
Oh, really?
I played Counter-Strike 1.6. I was Cal-IM, but I was like really young. And then Source came out, and I got to ESEA main. I played a little bit of League of Legends, but I didn't really get into it too much. I got Diamond a couple times, but it's not really that big of a deal. I did play a lot of Magic. I won a couple of like tournaments there, and then when I got to Hearthstone beta, I just kind of stopped everything.
Yeah, you're just
I just played Hearthstone.
Just like, this is the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
especially
stream
when they
now
announced
too,
that,
right? Oh yeah. What? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Especially when they announced that it was going to be on mobile, I knew this game was going to blow up.
Yeah, of course. I'm definitely the type that brings my tablet, and if I have that tablet when I'm like in bed or when I'm like, in like a waiting room or something, it's such a wonderful time waster when you should be doing something else. But yeah, what I was gonna say before I completely forgot what I was going to ask you.
You were asking about streaming?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah, so you stream now too, right?
Yeah, 5 days a week.
Oh, and is this something that you like just started with Hearthstone?
Yeah, my internet's not very good, so Hearthstone's a game I could actually stream.
Yeah. So I would love to hear about that process. Like, how do you stream 5 days a week, still keeping it fresh? Like, how does that happen? First of all, no pun intended with the Freshca.
Right. Yeah. Of course. So, I guess the big thing is always playing different decks. Like, if you play the same deck every day, you're gonna get bored. But it's actually like easier to stream and play than to just play without getting bored, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're playing and you're just like constantly playing games on ladder, you're gonna get bored and stop playing.
Yeah.
But when you're streaming, you're constantly playing, but you're also talking to people, so you have more stuff to like do. So it's actually more enjoyable to play, for me at least.
Yeah, that's a similar thing that dear Nadia said. She said that she loved Hearthstone, but it got boring because there wasn't like a social component. Like, like she wasn't playing with anyone. She was just playing by herself. She didn't have any friends to play with. And I'm not saying Sheila doesn't have any friends. This is her own words, mind you.
Yeah.
But once she starts streaming, it just transforms it.
I remember like the first time she got Legend or something. It was like me, Admirable, Koyuki, and I think Backspace. We're all on a Skype call with her, and she was streaming or something. I don't know if she got Legend on stream that night, but. I think that's when she first started streaming.
But you guys were just cheering her on the whole time?
Yeah, it was really funny. And I think we were actually hindering her rather than coaching her. Because we were all just like arguing over plays and like making jokes at each other. So
of course.
I'm not actually sure it helped her, but it was definitely fun.
And then, of course, the whole time you guys are arguing, like the rope is just ticking down. It's just like, come on, guys, burning. What do I do?
And then somebody would just yell in the back. You're like, you need to do this now.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's funny. So, how do you feel about your chat then? Your stream fans? Like, how do you...
They're awesome.
Really?
Yeah. Like, some of them will tell me they stream, and I'll even pop in from time to time, just because, like, they support me so much. It's the only thing I can do to really pay them back.
Yeah. That's super cool. Now, I couldn't help but notice, I was checking out your Twitch and your Twitter and all that. I couldn't help but notice that you were a fan of Smash Brothers, right?
Oh, I am, yeah.
See, now that is something you don't see. You don't see every day, because I am the huge fan of Smash Brothers. Like, that's where I first started. I first started with fighting games.
I gotcha.
So like,
yeah.
so it's like, do you still Smash every now and then? Like, do you still play?
I play at like friends' houses and stuff, but I don't really play competitively.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to go online with Yoshi and troll people.
So you caught Apex then?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, man, that was insane.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe what happened to Mango. I'm like, how do you get out that fast? But anyways, yeah, man. Smash hype. Have you played the new Smash 4?
Yeah, that's what I'm mostly playing now because that's what my friends have.
And that explains the Yoshi.
Yeah, for sure.
So good in that game.
He is. He's awesome. The only thing that sucks is it's really hard to like juggle on the ledge now. Like you can't just keep jumping on the ledge and throwing eggs anymore.
Yeah, because now you're not even invulnerable. Like when you're doing it, it's so easy to punish once you get past the eggs. Yep. Anyways, I'm sure right now I'm like alienating like 80% of the listeners. Like, what are you guys talking about?
What the fuck is Smash?
Is this like a new expansion coming out? Like, like new cards? But no, man. But cool. So what do you see, I guess, your future in Hearthstone? Like, what do you see yourself doing in, like, the next 2 or some years?
Well, I'm hoping I can turn streaming into full-time. Mm-hmm. I'm still looking for, like, an actual competitive team. I've been on a couple, but none of them really worked out. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, maybe I'll get picked up by a team and start playing in more tournaments. I'm not doing too bad in like the opens. I used to play in a lot more invite tournaments, but there's just so many good players now. It's hard to get invited to tournaments unless you're like one of the big names.
Yeah, and that's something that we often talk about on the show. Like sometimes we have those like pro players, but we like to also host winners of like qualifying tournaments. Like winners of the Gosu Cup, and thankfully there's that new Hearthstone League that's coming out, or actually that is already out and has already happened. Where new players and players who aren't invited get a chance to compete, because that's always so hard to do, because just from talking to you, and hearing about some of the decks that you pioneered. I mean, like, these are decks that other pros have gone and played. It's like, obviously you have what it takes to like compete on that stage, but the whole getting invited, that's gotta be frustrating, right?
I mean, it is in a lot of ways. Like, I wish I could be the one competing, but luckily for me, at least, I know a lot of the people who play in them, so I can still help them prep. So it's like I'm kind of competing through them, I guess, but it would be nice to be in the limelight, I guess.
Yeah, all right. So, hey, guys, you heard it now. We got a free agent here, He's looking for a team. I guess, in closing, is there any shout-outs you want to give, or any just, last kind of words that you want to say to your fans or some of the people listening today?
I definitely want to thank Tempo Storm for giving me a chance. I'm on their streaming network now, and I'm also doing weekly articles for them, so that's really cool. Pretty much just all the regulars. Like, there's about like 80 to 100 people who they're at every fucking stream, and it's insane. Like, I don't think I get new viewers very often, but like I still have decent numbers because they're every day.
Well, what is your Twitch URL? It's just so.
It's just Freshca.
Freshca.
Yeah, it's twitch.tv/Freshca.
All right, we will definitely put that in the post. So if you guys are just like listening to this on SoundCloud or something, go to GosuGamers.net. This is going to be on the front page of the Hearthstone section. Check it out. We're going to have Twitch links and all that. Check out Freska's stream. The guy plays new decks all the time, right?
Yeah, I think like 2 weeks ago I was playing Mill Druid. I played some Juggernaut Warrior. I played Combo Shaman last week. It was like Shades of Wind Fury and shit.
Shades of Wind Fury. I saw one of your highlights of when you were playing Mill Druid. It was, I guess, that priest out.
that was
hilarious, man. That was too good. All right. Well, anyways, hey, thanks so much for being on the show. I had fun. This was good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, all right. So, again, check out Freshca's stream. And, yeah, thanks for being on.
Yeah, no problem. Later.
See you, dude. All right. What a cool guy, man. Be sure to check out his stream because he's an entertaining guy. I didn't realize that someone I guess who could be that good at Hearthstone would have trouble finding a team. I mean, like the guy's obviously got this strategic mind for it. Some of the decks that we were talking about were like all him, especially Fatigue Mage. Like that's a powerful deck. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll get to our last guest. It should be just as entertaining as these. So yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for waiting. We have our very last guest for today. He was just recently playing in Battle of the Best 2015. You may know him, you may not, but you're about to. So yeah, without further ado, our next guest, welcome FaKe to the show. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Doing good, doing good. How'd you like my intro, right? It was pretty good.
Oh, it's great.
Fantastic. Yeah, anyways, I'll have to improve on it. So hey, how you been? What have you been up to?
Oh, fine. I mean, you already said it. I played Battle of the Best last weekend. It was pretty stressful because I also had an exam on Tuesday because I'm a student. And so the last 2 days before the exam were Battle of the Best, and that, yeah, it was pretty tough, but I think I managed well. Like, both Battle of the Best and the exam went pretty decent.
So what are you studying? What was the test?
I'm almost done with my master in business administration, and the exam was about insurance economics.
Wow, no way. That seems very hard.
It was okay. Like, the exam was rather easy, actually.
Oh, so which do you think is easy? The master's in business administration or a professional Hearthstone?
Oh,
that's tough.
Hearthstone is harder.
Yeah, I know, right? Because Hearthstone is competitive.
Yeah, actually, I think people underestimate the actual skill cap of Hearthstone a lot. Like, it's not that hard to get to a decent level, like rank 5 or even low legend, but once you get to a certain point, there's so many things you can actually improve on, and I think people neglect that a lot. If you look at people like Sixo or Firebet, the amount of work they put into their decks and their strategies, it's insane.
Yeah, and also important to note, it's very, very different competing, having to use multiple decks and having to ban decks and having to play that whole meta than just climbing the ladder with one deck, Like, it's a completely different skill set.
We had some articles by people such as Brian Kibler about the multiple deck formats, and that, like, on ladder you have these people who, like, I'm one of those people who play like 3,000 or 4,000 games with one class, which happens to be Shaman in my case. And we just know these classes so well, and then you go in a tournament, and yeah, like Alchemix knew that, and he just banned my Shaman straight out. There was no other reason to ban my Shaman. Like, it wasn't his strategy or something. He just knew I'm good with it. He banned it. Yeah, train your other 3 decks.
Yeah,
and it's like really hard to know 4 decks on the very highest level.
Yeah, and this is something you don't really see with like Magic the Gathering or some other card game formats. The fact that you could just ban someone's deck. So if you know they're, for your case, a very good Shaman player, just ban Shaman, And now you have to rely on a completely different set of skills, and not to mention if they, like specifically built decks that had weaknesses to Shaman, but they knew that they could just ban Shaman. So, this whole meta within the game is something that you write about extensively, right?
Exactly. Well, to be fair, in Magic the Gathering, there's this problem that if you actually would like to play 4 different decks, cards in Magic the Gathering are quite expensive. If you like in standard, I think some decks cost like $300, but if you go to the decks where you can play, like Magic the Gathering has like tens of thousands of cards, and some formats don't allow all cards. And if you go to the formats that allow more cards, like decks cost like $1,000 or $20,000, and if you want to play 4 decks, it's like really expensive, and so it's you can't really play with 4 decks. But in Hearthstone, the problem is because people can't really train 4 decks at the very highest level, because not every Hearthstone player is a full-time player. They will often bring very similar decks, which are easy to play. Like before GVG, you saw everyone with a Warlock, everyone with a Hunter, and it gets stale.
Yeah. What can you give, I guess, some examples of I guess some of the decks that you would bring? And is your strategy more about, hey, I'm going to play to my strength, bring decks that are kind of similar to this like Shaman style I like, or do you really just play the meta?
Well, in the optimal case, you would determine what's the strongest class and train them accordingly, right? The problem is the metagame is constantly changing. Like we saw in that tournament that a lot of people brought mech mages, paladin, and druid, and so your conclusion would be that now you train these 3 decks and then you're fine for the next tournament. But that's not the case, because mech mage is all over the ladder now, and people adjust. So now actually priest becomes viable again, because it deals well with mech mage, and warlocks with double hellfire become better, and rogue becomes better because they have very efficient removal. Like it's constantly changing, and therefore you always have to adjust. And that's why I always like to have my shaman as my anchor, because I can adapt very fast to changing metagames with it. But then or 1 or 2 decks that I know really well, and then I choose 1 or 2 decks that adjust my lineup to the metagame.
In your and this is something that we can go into more later, but you just recently wrote your Battle of the Best report, and as I was reading it, there was something that caught my eye. You used the phrase streamlined, and you said that you can actually sometimes make your deck too streamlined, and it's very easy to be countered in that way. If I think I understood you, can you kind of elaborate more on that concept?
Well, you're not really countered easily, but I think well, my article was mostly about a banned format, because if you bring 4 decks that are all like 50, 60, or like 40 to 60% against the field, like decks like Druid or Shaman, your ban isn't very effective. Like if all your matchups are very 50-50 like, what does your ban actually achieve? So what you want to do is you want to tune your decks in a certain direction, like make them a little bit more greedy, and then ban the only relevant aggro deck, like mech mage or hunter at the moment. And since I wrote that in my article, after the nerf, when Hunter got banned, that was I think 2 days before the tournament, and we thought it will be very hard for people to think of new aggro decks in those 2 days. Like now, about 1 week later, we know Hunter is still very good, but in 2 days it's very difficult, and the only relevant aggro deck was actually mech mage that people already knew. Well, Firebat still brought Zoo and got 2nd place, but that's Firebat. So that's why my strategy kind of revolved around banning mech mage, the only aggro deck, and then I just took out all my very defensive cards like Healbot out of my deck, Sludge Belchers, and replaced them by Harrison Jones, Piloted Sky Golem, stuff like that. So then you kind of increase your overall win rates and decrease your win rate a lot in the mech mage aggro matchup, and then you just ban that matchup, and then you have overall better win rates.
But yeah, I mean, that's exactly that's a fantastic explanation of it. You know, to make your decks, I guess, greedier what you said, and then to
Yeah.
ban the
I mean,
counter.
you can also take the opposite direction. Just make sure you actually have weak matchups that you want to ban. But these weak matchups that you have, in the optimal case, they're the same for every deck you play. Like if your Druid deck is bad against, I don't know, Paladin, whatever, Mage deck is bad against Hunter, or Shaman is bad against Priest, then what do you ban?
Yeah.
So all of your decks should be bad against the same one or two classes.
That's very interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase on this podcast, but you guys heard it here first. Sometimes your deck needs to purposely be bad against certain types of decks. And obviously that's a little like tongue in cheek, but the lesson there is, to make your bans valuable.
Exactly. I mean, you should get something out of it on the other side, right? If you have a weak matchup but your other matchups don't improve, it doesn't make sense. But usually you will be able to improve the other matchups.
So one of the other things that I was reading in it is your choice to use piloted sky golems instead of Sylvanas in a lot of the decks. Now, I think that's a particular nuanced thing. I haven't really seen that in many of the decks. Can you, I guess, explain?
It's actually something I got from Strifecrow.
Really?
And I respect Strifecrow a lot. I think he's the absolute best player in the world. I fear him a lot more than Colento, for example.
Yeah.
Because Colento is kind of...
Yeah. Just why is that? Why do you fear Strifecrow more than Colento? I'm just curious.
Well, I played both, and I played Colento twice in tournaments, and I beat him twice. And I think Colento is someone who does almost perfect plays all the time. He does very few misplays. The thing with Colento is he's kind of predictable. He usually brings the same decks every tournament. One tournament I knew exactly what decks he would bring, and I just picked, and he was my only opponent in that tournament because it was Gentleman's Cup. So I knew my opponent, so I could just bring counter decks and beat him. But with people like Strifecrow and Firebat, you never know what to expect. They really know how to build strategies with their decks, do the right ban, and throw opponents off guard. And Colento just brings his 4 strongest decks and plays them perfectly, which obviously also works really well.
Yeah, that's also a strategy.
But Colento probably is number 3 in my ranking, my personal ranking, but I just fear Strifecrow and Firebat just a tiny little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about the piloted sky golems.
Yeah, that's something I saw on Strifecrow stream. I actually didn't catch a real explanation from Strifecrow, but my explanation of it would be, and I tried both in different kinds of decks, is that on an empty board, you generally don't really want to play Sylvanas, because then it's a 5/5 versus an empty board, and then your opponent uses 5 damage of removal, which will usually be less than 6 mana. Of course, if you're already behind, Sylvanas can be great, but even then, there are some cards at the moment, such as Muster for Battle or Implosion, which actually make the random steal less effective than it was pre-GVG. And therefore, I think Piloted Sky Golem just gives you, on average, a little bit more board control, because just on an empty board, it's a really aggressive card. If you don't deal with the 6/5, you're pretty screwed. And even if you do, you still get a 4-drop with which is on average, I think, 3-4 point something.
So it's more consistent.
Yeah, and even if you are behind, if you play Sylvanas, you can still get a bad result because you steal a 1/1 or something, and your opponent's plays around it.
Off the top of your head, do you know the worst possible minion you can get from Piloted Sky Golem and the best possible?
It would depend on the specific situation, but Gnomish Inventor should be among the worst, I guess, because you don't get the battle cry.
And I guess the best
Other than that,
I don't know, just
cultist can be either really good or really bad. You actually saw that in my match with Reynet. One time I drew 2 cards of it, and one time he had a 2/5 on board and just killed it for free. So yeah, Dark Cultist can be really good, can be really bad. Yeah.
So you also talk a little bit about the strength of double combo druid. Now, one of our guests earlier, he mentioned that the strength of the double combo druid goes up when aggro gets weaker, and he's saying now that aggro is not nearly as strong, we're going to see a huge influx of double combo druid. I mean, do you agree with that, or?
I think right after the nerf, double combo druid was really strong. Like you see, like 1 or 2 weeks before the nerf, you actually saw a lot of ramp druid with Ancients of War and MC tags, stuff like that, because that's better against aggro, and we saw a lot of that. And then right before the nerf and after the nerf, we saw that double combo druid made a comeback and was really good in the Battle of the Best tournament and the other terms that were around that time. But I think it's actually gonna decline again, and it is already declining, and the reason is mech-mage, because mech-mage has a really good matchup against druid because of their mirror entities. I mean, what do you play into mirror entities?
Yeah.
Piloted Shredder or Druid of the Claw. Actually, I like Carlos's double combo druid in Battle of the Best a lot because it played 1 Thanos and 1 Luthor specifically for that matchup. Because
that's very clever.
If your opponent has a mirror entity, you play Luthor something on turn 6. You play Luthor, swipe his other minion, and the Luthor is dead too. And I think that it was very smart, and he actually did really well with that druid, even though he didn't do too well in total.
Yeah, that's a very clever innovation. Now, those type of innovations, I know that what we spoke about earlier, Strifego is such an innovative player, and I think that's why you're right, he's so strong. Do you consider yourself someone that tweaks decks and like makes them better, or someone that also tries, to innovate and think of the new next best thing?
I think I'm probably more the type who tweaks a bit more than someone who really innovates complete new decks. I think when it comes to Shaman, I can usually use my experience to make a little bit bigger tweaks. Like sometimes I'll just change 8 or 9 cards depending on the meta game because I know the class really well. But I have a lot of fun with deck building, and I actually try to build a mid-range warlock like Doug Wannix did. With that deck is just a monster. When I saw it, when I saw Ecom on stream, and it was actually my next opponent, I was so scared. Yeah. I wrote every card down. I took Mirari and Alash, and we just played 10 matches. So I knew how to play against because that deck looked so scary. And those training matches helped a lot, and that gave me an advantage.
What are some of the scariest parts of that deck? I'm very curious now.
Well, at first, when you look at the deck, I watched him play against mYinsanity. He just 3-0 sweep Masan. And the thing is, you have like 20 or 30 points of heal. You have 2 anti-kill bots. You have 2 Siphon Souls, Mistress of Pains, whatever. 2 Elden Ring Farseers. You just think aggro has no chance against it. You also have 2 Hellfires. Like aggro stands. Well, Hunter is fine, but mech-mage has no chance against it usually. Yeah. And on the other hand, you see cards like Kel'Thuzad, these All Shredder, Jaraxxus. So how do you win the late game? So how do you win at all against it? And the answer was, but like if you think a lot about it, the answer is pretty obvious. But if you just see 3 games of it, it's pretty hard. So the answer was has 2 ways actually. The first weakness is burst damage. Like if you burst him down from 15 or 18 life, he can't heal up. Yeah. And oftentimes you will have pretty weak bot state because of weak minions like anti-kill bot and Elden Ring Farseer. I noticed that because I saw Ecop ban Druid, and I thought to myself, why is he banning Druid? And it's the combo. Burst. And when I played against my trainings matches, well, before the ECOP match against Mirari, I also played Paladin against it, and I noticed it doesn't run any silence effects. So if you play something like Pilot Sky Golem against it, how does it kill it? Like Siphon Soul, and Siphon Soul 6/6 mana, and then you get a 4-drop. That's the stuff how you can make it uncomfortable for him, like Death Rattles, because it doesn't run silence, and burst damage. And because I figured he'd ban my Druid too, I ultimately decided to run Shaman against it, because it gave me, like, my Shaman had a lot of Death Rattles, my deck was for the tournament, and burst damage with Alakir.
Yeah, you know, in that match with you versus ECOP, there were some crazy moments and some really clutch plays.
This MC text, he made me so angry.
For those who didn't watch it, basically he played into a mirror entity, giving 4 minions on the board plus the Dr. Boom. Then he played mind control tech, and he got lucky enough and grabbed the Dr. Boom, and it was.
And the game before, he took Lothab from 4 minions.
it was just crazy. And then the game, I'm not sure if it was the game after that or the game before, but when he got that insane draw with the Paladin, with the Quartermaster. And then you...
Oh yeah, the game where Hex L-Shock won once.
and you know what? I actually want to talk about that play, because it was such a hard one to make. I mean, you know, ultimately you still lost that match, because there's not much you can do when you didn't have many plays. But, like, what was going on through your head when you realized that you had to Hex and you had to Earthshock, you know, on 1/1s like that?
Well, obviously, I didn't know for sure that he had a Quartermaster, but there were some things that told me that it was pretty likely. I gave it like a 70 to 80% probability that he actually had it, because first, he had like 2 cards, I think, that were kind of sitting in his hand. And he top decked that second, like, it was a second Master for Battle, I think, and he top decked that, and he instantly played it. Like, he didn't even think a second about it, and that was kind of, like, I thought that was kind of suspicious. And the second thing was kind of that I knew I would lose the game. In this 70 to 80% of the case, I would lose the game on the spot if he played that Quartermaster. And the third thing was kind of the rest of my hand was Azure Drake, Fire Elemental, Dr. Boom. And that was turn 4 when I hexed Earthshock. So I thought to myself, even if he doesn't have Quartermaster, and I may lack the Hex and Earthshock later on versus Turon, my next 3 turns will be Azure Drake, Fire Elemental, and Dr. Boom, no matter what. So even if he doesn't have that, I still have time to draw into something else, to get more options, to make good decisions. I would be at a big disadvantage, but I would have still the possibility to come back. And that the probability for that case was like 20 to 30%, and the probability for the case in which I would just lose on the spot was 70 to 80% for my estimation, and that's why I did that.
And you know, I think that's a very interesting point that even the casters missed, is that you already had your next 3 turns, planned out, and it was perfectly, on curve, and there's very few cards that you would rather play but those, so those 2 cards would have been dead in your hand anyway.
It's like all that together. It's not just like, okay, my opponent plays Master for Battle, and I'm so scared of Quartermaster, I'll always instantly Lightning Storm it or Hex or Earthshock it. Like, that very rarely happens, but if you take all these things together, okay, he instantly played the second Master for Battle, he has those 2 cards in his hand that he didn't even think about playing for a second. Those were obviously not 2 or 3 drops, but 4 or 5, or no, 4, he could have still played a 4 drop on that turn. So it was obviously 5 drop, 6 drop, 7 drop, something like that, 2 cards. And then I had my curve plan out and all that. So,
and And you know, those type of hints is actually a pretty perfect segue, because I wanted to talk about your other series of articles basically on how to get better. Like, there was some of the basic tips and then some of the more advanced tips. And that type of decision to look at the speed in which your opponent plays a card and then like to do something from there, that's something that not many casual players think about. I mean many casual players aren't even looking at the screen when it's not their turn, you know. They're just, you know, whatever, and not looking at which cards he highlights and stuff, you know. And there's this one piece of advice you said that you should always a mulligan after your opponent, and I think that's really interesting. If you could give some like insight on that whole type of play.
Yeah, I think actually some things I wrote about in these articles are things that even a lot of professionals still don't do. I'm still on besides being on mYinsanity, I'm still in a practice group, like under the radar, and for example, 6.0 is in it too, and we think a lot of pros still act in a very unprofessional manner in that sense, because they just don't take advantage of very simple things. Like why if you're in a tournament and you play for hundreds of thousands of dollars or $10,000 even, why would you, even if it just gives you like 0.5% win rate more or less, why would you ever give your opponent an information advantage, like by mulliganing first? I know, for example, like 6.0, when you watch a stream, you will hear him talk a lot about how many cards his opponent mulligan, and he will say, okay, he kept 3 cards, he obviously has Mortal Call, so he'll Mortal Call my Lepronome. So that happens a lot. And yeah, most people only look at Warlock hands to determine if someone is Zoo or Handlock, and even not even everyone does that. And but it goes far beyond that. You can assess the general strength of the opponent's hand.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, we just talked about a like real world example where it did help you. Like that was part of the puzzle piece for you to deduce that he did have the quartermaster, and you could play, even though it was still a losing match, the best play that you could have possibly done in that situation.
I mean, granted, if you played me on ladder before, like a lot of Ledge players probably played me, and they will probably notice that oftentimes I won't follow my own advice I actually gave in the article, because if I'm at rank 500 legend, I don't really care. But as soon as I'm in an important tournament match, or I'm at like rank 80 or 50 legend, I will suddenly start to play my turns a lot more slowly, take my time to take every small advantage I can, and that's what this article is about. It doesn't really tell you to play every single of your matches like that. If you just want to have a fun time and enjoy your free time, play a few matches, yeah, do that. Don't take 90 seconds every turn. But if you really want to improve and you have important tournament matches or ladder matches, like it doesn't. There's no reason not to take advantage of these things.
And just for some clarity, where can our viewers see these articles that we've been talking about?
Oh, you can either go to the Hearthstone section of 2p.com, and well, the how to improve your skills articles are a little older, but yeah, you'll find them. Or you can just go on my Twitter at mYIFake, and you'll see my tweets about them.
Right,
and
cool.
I also keep you informed about new articles, of course.
All right, cool. Yeah, and also, you know, we'll have links in this post on GosuGamers.net. So yeah, so just check on the bottom of this post, and you should see them. What is the one piece of advice, if you could only give one piece of advice to any player? Because even, you know, the pro, even the semi-pro, what's the one piece of advice of how to up your game?
Probably a very simple one. Just seriously take your time and consider your options and think about why you do a certain play. Oftentimes people, they just rush their plays, and they don't even have a specific reason for doing certain plays over another play. They just, they assume it makes sense, and then 2 seconds after they did the play, they say, whoops, that was a misplay. And like, how often do you actually do a play, and after that you think, whoops, or maybe, I should have tapped first. That's really easy mistakes.
Tap first.
It happens to me. It happens to everyone. Like, just take your time and think about why you do certain plays.
Just to wrap it up, is there any last shout outs you want to give, or anything you want to say to some of your fans?
I guess I greet my team, mYinsanity, and my sponsors, Logitech, Bison, World of CD Keys, and Esports Clothing. And I hope maybe I'll get some more invites in the future, because these fucking 1,000-man qualifiers are really tough.
Yeah, I know, right? You have to sit there and drag your fist through the mud just to
Let's just play that EU vs China qualifier a few hours ago, and he got to top 16 and then lost to 1 in 19 top deck, and that just hurts.
Yeah, man.
But
and that's definitely a reoccurring theme we hear. People just trying to get those invites, trying to get through the qualifiers, and that's the life that you pro players live, I guess, right? Always.
But Blizzard helped that out a little bit by requiring tournaments to give at least 50% of the spots to qualifiers if they want to be acknowledged by Blizzard to give points for the World Championship. So that's a really smart move by Blizzard.
Oh yeah. It's funny. I actually wasn't aware that existed, but that is a very good move.
It's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, they give invited players an advantage because they can earn points for the World Championship, which is kind of unfair. But on the other side, people will see more qualifier spots for the tournament, so it's good for both sides, kind of.
Yeah, and I guess that's where your sights are, right? The World Championships on this year. Going for BlizzCon?
I hope so. I mean, it's tough. Like, the end of last month was probably the hardest month we've ever seen so far. Because if you look at the top 100 list, there's like 80 people you wouldn't instantly recognize. Like, it's gonna be really tough, even for the really good people. Like, okay, Colento and Firebat, people like that would probably make it. But other than that...
I mean, as this game gets bigger and bigger, and as qualifiers get more and more common... And now we have stuff like Hearthstone leagues and stuff. There's going to be a lot more players that, are under the radar and coming to fruition, so to speak.
Yeah, and constantly giving information out to new players doesn't exactly help that problem. But I mean, in the end, we all serve to make this a bigger and greater community.
Yeah, right.
It's not just a job; it's also a hobby. At least for me, I'm not a full-time Hearthstone player, and I love this game, and I hope it becomes really big and a lot of new and great players emerge.
Yeah, man. You know what? There's some guy out there reading one of your articles, and he's going to be the same guy that beats you in one of these qualifiers. Oh. And he's going to be looking at your hand and, seeing how fast you mulligan and all that stuff.
There's a guy who is actually called FaKe, and he reached rank 1 legend
really?
Last month, yes.
Wow.
And Thijs actually deleted me from his friends list because he thought I was the FaKe.
Oh my god. That is so funny. Alright, well hey man, this has been fun. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. I'll see you later.
Yeah, see you.
Bye. That's funny. Thijs actually deleted the wrong thing, thinking it was the real one. No, wait. No. That's not. He deleted the real FaKe, thinking he was the wrong. Anyways, that's it for our show today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, check out GosuGamers.net for all of your Hearthstone needs. If you are interested in following any of the players hosted today, we're going to have all of their Twitter info and all of their Twitch info, if applicable, on the post on the site. So yeah, this is Nick Durazion signing out.